unfortunate. And so we have a lot to talk about, just a lot to get to. And if you want, hi everybody, welcome to the conversation. Let's talk about love,
health and wellness, transformation, yeah, we got it. Discuss your breakthroughs, national issues.
Local behemoths, but also with those who are listening around the region and the world. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have an audience that really, from Europe to the United States, Canada, around the region, and of course, Bahamians right here who are very interested in just wanting to know the answers and ask the questions that get them the answers that they seek. Before we
need a little inspiration, tune into the conversation. Talk about it on the conversation.
This is the time, Shanique, when the country really need to find ways to join together to fight common problems that we have. Collaborative leadership.
You need a little conversation. We can go far with the conversation. Here with Shanique on the conversation, yeah.
Please share the video, share. Tag some people in the live feed, share it in your private Facebook group, share it in your WhatsApp group.
Here with Shanique on the conversation, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you all doing? Welcome to the conversation. It's a Monday, a brand new week, and what a week this is. A whole lot's going on. As you all know, in about 4 hours, the Prime Minister makes a national address. Many are speculating. Of course, the Hot Topics panel will add their speculations, but many are saying, you know what? The Prime Minister more than likely will extend the emergency orders, and who knows what other announcements he will make. There is a segment of the population calling for lockdown, but many thinkers, and this person, my first guest, will be able to really shed light on that in terms of what he thinks in terms of the lockdowns. But many people are calling for that, but many say no. The economy cannot stand it. The Prime Minister is perhaps not thinking and looking in that direction. But we will all be glued, whether it's to social media or television, to this evening at 8 o'clock to see what is said. And then, of course, a little bit later in the show, we have the Hot Topics panel. I have two gentlemen who are ready to go toe-to-toe on the stories that you were talking about, on the issues that you were talking about. You guys, we know that over the weekend, it's the kind of stories you don't want to talk about, the kind of information you don't want to share. Of the Ministry of Health's COVID-19 dashboard showed the largest number in a day of positive cases of COVID-19, 228. I think that was Saturday, 228, just very troubling. We see what's going on. And I always, if you all have been following this show since 2014, aim and endeavor to share uplifting news, even when I talk about hot topics. But this one, you can't dance around. You just can't ignore it. And so today we're going to really be looking at that. Good afternoon to everybody who is streaming live. Hello to you, Kizzy Aisha Newton. Hello to Portia Newton in Florida. Hello to everybody who is watching wherever you're watching. Hello to Jessica Curry, Nicola Saunders. Hello to Margaret Elizabeth McKay, Lakeisha Kennedy. Hello to everybody who is watching. Good to have you all watching. Please do share the live stream as you all come in. My first guest this afternoon has been the most vocal, perhaps the most visible Speaker of the House of Assembly outside of Parliament. We are used to them being the center of attention in Parliament, but outside of Parliament, he has been the most vocal, the most visible, some may say the most controversial, but he is here today to join us for several moments to talk about what's happening, to talk about the proposed open Parliament, to talk about also the special called sitting, the reconvening of Parliament as was sent out yesterday by House of Assembly Clerk David Forbes, about what's expected today. What's expected this week, which is Tuesday and Wednesday. I want to welcome to the conversation. I think it's the first time he's appeared on the show. We have interviewed him before, but the first time he's been on the conversation. Please welcome the Honorable Halson Moultrie, Speaker of the House of Assembly and Speaker of Parliament here in the Bahamas. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Shanique. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. How are you doing? And I imagine you are obviously in the middle of preparation for a busy week ahead.
Yes, I'm doing fine, and I expect tomorrow to be very interesting, to say the least. I understand that the Prime Minister has foreshadowed introducing a new legislative regime with respect to dealing with COVID in the future. But in the interim, the government is intending to renew or extend the COVID-19 emergency order. I don't know exactly for how long, but I would expect that if he introduces a bill to establish this new legal regime, that should be an interesting matter to debate on Wednesday.
On
But
Wednesday.
Yes, I expect tomorrow's session to be very brief. Perhaps the Prime Minister will do some introductory remarks to summarize why he feels that the emergency powers should be extended. He will table the documents, and perhaps this new act might be, or this new bill might be tabled at that time. And so we would know how we would proceed on Wednesday.
Well, let's break it down a bit. Let's just talk first of all about the numbers. How do you feel? A number of people have been, but there's a segment that said, boy, we need this lockdown. If we ever needed it before, we need it now. Your thoughts about that? And do you think he is likely to go in that direction?
Well, I think the government is trying to balance the recovery of the economy with saving and protecting lives. But my perspective is the economy exists for the people and not the people for the economy. So the priority should always be protecting lives. So whatever means that government would want to implement, I think human life should be foremost in its considerations.
So you feel as though a lockdown would not be unreasonable, just along the lines of what you said just now about lives before economy?
Well, the lockdown definitely will limit the amount of exposure that persons may experience as a result of not being locked down. But certainly it has been wearing on the people for so long. I don't think Bahamians are prepared to undergo another series of lockdown, even though that might be in their best interest. And so the government would be hard-pressed to find a balance between the curfew, the lockdowns, and opening up of the economy. Because I believe the government is hard-pressed now to raise the revenue that it needs, and it's also hard-pressed to find persons who would be prepared to give the government loans without making the demands that the government find and get a new mandate from the people prior to the grant of those loans.
Yes. Now let's just talk about what you had planned for this week, and that is an open parliament. Do you think the Prime Minister was played chess with you and outmaneuvered you in terms of, hey, wait a minute, he is calling this open parliament for Wednesday. Let me checkmate him and call parliament for Tuesday?
Well, that may have been a consideration, one of his considerations, but I think the overwhelming consideration would definitely have been the fact that come August 13th, the emergency powers orders would have expired on Friday, and he would have been hard pressed to justify to the Bahamian people why he would have implemented such intrusive orders from 2020, and when there was only one death and a few cases, and allow them to expire at the peak, at the worsening of the pandemic, when it is raging at its worst, where multiple persons are dying overnight. The cases are in the 3-digit range. And so this is definitely the worst period. So I think he would necessarily want to extend the orders. And at the same time, if he one of his consideration may have been, well, I really don't want to see this open parliament, because I can tell you, when we announced the open parliament, the interest has been surprising. from youth groups. I've had a number of youth groups that have contacted me. Civil society are excited about it. A lot of women group who are dissatisfied with the number of women who were ratified by the two major parties. They've been considering making presentations. I've called for persons in the public to bring their petitions to the open parliament. And so the open parliament is a very exciting opportunity for the ordinary, the common man to come forward and to be able to get access to the parliament and interact with parliament. So the open parliament would not be cancelled by any means.
Oh, so you plan on still proceeding with this open parliament idea whenever?
Whenever, but of course the national parliament with its duly elected representatives would take precedent over the open parliament. So even though the open parliament will be rescheduled and not occur on Wednesday, it most definitely will occur. And all I would need is to discover on Wednesday whether the government is using this opportunity for the reconvening of parliament as a special sitting of the parliament, or whether they are abandoning the recess and continuing the session of parliament as business as usual as of tomorrow. Once I know that, then I would know how to proceed with respect to the open parliament. But the open parliament is definitely on the speaker's agenda.
Do you think that this speaker, yourself, Halson Moultrie, you now represent the voice, as you said, of the common man who was hugely excited, reached out to you, several groups? Do you think that represents some sort of new popularity, new interest, even in you yourself?
Well, the speaker is the first commoner of the land. And the speaker should always be concerned about making certain that the commoners of the land have access to the parliamentary process. I don't know if I can say that I am their voice, but I would definitely be an advocate for any wrong or any infringement of their constitutional rights. And many persons have been calling to thank me for the positions that I've taken on behalf of the ordinary man, and for opening up the entire process, and actually for the educational process that has resulted from me becoming an independent speaker. Because there's so many things that persons have indicated to me that they did not know until the speaker became independent. They did not know how the three arms of government should be functioning. They didn't know the function of the legislative branch. They didn't know the entire process, but they are learning now. They didn't know that the speaker was protected even more so than the prime minister in the constitution, and that no one could get rid of the speaker if they so choose, because the speaker was not falling in line and abiding by their dictates.
Mr. Speaker, let us look for a moment. Go ahead, sir.
So we have a situation in the country today that we've not had before since we became independent as a nation. And so it's people are beginning to see now the damage to constitutional and electoral process by major parties in particular. People are beginning to understand that for 224 years, from 1729 to 1953, we didn't have any political parties. And independents were elected to parliament, and they would petition the parliament on behalf of their constituents. But after 1953, when the first party was formed, in 1955, when the second party was formed, the party agenda began to supersede the people's agenda. And we saw nepotism, cronyism, and political patronage superseding the interests of the people.
You've been a proponent of, you've been pushing, when we sat and we talked a few months ago, I did an interview with you, a close-up interview with you. You are a proponent, it appears now, of this independent movement, etc. Do you think, you called out a number of things that you say the major parties are guilty of. You think that some independent party, some independent voice and sort of new look in parliament would change that any?
I believe so, and and the young people, I believe, see that, because the young people were the largest group of persons who were showing and expressing interest in the open parliament. And it's interesting when you compare that with the fact that more than 60% of the voting population is between the age of 18 and 40 years old. And so we have a number of young persons who are not satisfied with the type of representation and governance of the two major parties in particular that have been running the country now for the past 54 years. Young people don't even want to hear the word PLP or the word FNM call. But we're now encouraging them to go and get registered to vote, and examine the candidates that are offering themselves. That is why this educational process is so important, so that they can look at the individuals, see how they have run their own lives, see if they've been successful in managing their own affairs before they be advanced to governing and running the government and the country's affairs, and then make that determination with an informed populace. We'll see better governance in the country, as opposed to just voting on emotions and being attached to a red party or a yellow party or a green party, but being selective in terms of who you want to represent you to advance your cause and to advance the nation as a whole. We're beginning to see that now. The young people are much more educated. They have access to information now. They're walking around with the world in the palm of their hands. And so we're beginning to see a complete transformation of the voting populace. And in the interim, by an act of God, through this COVID, the two major parties that are used to convincing and influencing people to support them based on their mass rallies and liquor and junkanoo and whatever else are unable to do that. So the playing field has really been significantly leveled to give legitimate opportunities to independent candidates and candidates from smaller parties.
Speaking of track record and looking at any candidate's track record, how do you respond to this? Kizzy Newton says, Mr. Moultrie is more active in the House than in his constituency, meaning that you cannot feel, touch, or see you in Nassau Village. How do you respond to that?
Well, Nassau Village is a very large constituency with 10 different districts making up the 14 polling divisions. So someone from one polling division may be able to say that they haven't seen me for a particular period of time, but I always say to all of the residents of the Nassau Village constituency, I have a constituency office. I'm paying rent, I'm paying staff, I'm paying for all the utilities. It is easy for you to contact the office than for me to try and see 6,000 voters. It takes almost a year to go around that constituency to touch 6,000 voters.
So you were telling the Bahamian people, stop being lazy, show up, get involved, come to the office, all this stuff, and stop sitting down saying we don't see the MP. That's basically what you're saying.
Yes, if you have issues, the only way I will know those issues if you get in contact with my office or you get in contact with me. No one in Nassau Village can say that they've been trying to contact me through my numbers and I have not returned their calls. I always return calls and I make myself available when I can, but I can't make myself available. I get a number of calls while I'm sitting on the chair. Mm-hmm. While I'm in the House of Assembly, people are not even watching the broadcast of the House of Assembly proceeding, and they're trying to call me when I'm in the chair. You see, so what I'm saying is I do my best to see as many persons as possible. No member of parliament can meet all the needs of all the people, especially in the hard-pressed and depressed areas like Nassau Village, Kemp Road area, Pinewood Gardens, Bain Town. It's practically impossible. My slogan for this campaign is arise and build. The first thing you have to do is arise. You can't lay on your bed all day and expect a member of parliament to meet all your needs.
Bill Kizzy, you got the answer right
am-
there. Arise and Bill, the member of parliament, say, don't just sit there and talk, do something, be about something. That's exactly what they said. Listen, Mr. Speaker, some weeks ago, you made a post on your Facebook page that you expect the Prime Minister to ring the bell. That did not happen. How does this new legislative regime that he has foreshadowed, I guess, to begin debate on Wednesday, sort of correlate with all that, and how does it all work?
Well, the most unfortunate thing about our democracy is that the Prime Minister can wait until he sees the most opportune time, or a time for when he feels that he has an advantage to call the general election. That is why we were pressing for, and the Prime Minister did promise and agree to a fixed election date, because the circumstance that we are going through now, where the Parliament was in recess for approximately 3 months, with the possibility of a snap general election in the middle of a COVID pandemic, is, in my estimation, ludicrous for a country to be placed in. And so, yes, we were expecting a snap election, but as God would have it, the COVID continued to resurge, and even now, an order went out that only 5 persons can campaign, even though I see that being breached every day. And you must be vaccinated to campaign, which I think is absurd. It's absurdly
I know you have
ludicrous.
a pushback against not necessarily the vaccine, but about the vaccine. You have a pushback.
Yes, I don't believe that the vaccine is the only option, and it shouldn't be promoted as the government is promoting it as the only option. And if the government is promoting it,
how do you see not only this government, but governments around the world basically saying the same tone?
yes, because I believe somehow there is some collusion in thought and in outcome. And I believe that somehow these governments are being induced to impose a particular outcome on its citizens. I don't support it at all. I don't think that a vaccine is the only option. And I believe that if you go the option of promoting that a vaccine is the only possible option to this pandemic, then you should be prepared to take liability for any outcome in terms of persons having side effects, having problems, or even dying. There's no way you can convince me that this is the best option, and you believe in it so much, but you are not prepared to take even limited liability to compensate persons for their medical expenses should this vaccine have some serious side effects, or you are not prepared to take liability for loss of income should people not be able to work as a result of taking this vaccine, or in the case of death, especially in a young family, you are not prepared to take liability for death or survivors' benefit to the family. To me, that is ludicrous. You cannot insist. You tell me it's my choice, and then when I decide to take a choice that is not favorable to the outcome that you want, you penalize me by segregating the community into the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And when the unvaccinated are being deprived of some of their constitutional rights, while the vaccinated are getting clearance, but the vaccinated can contract the virus and can spread the virus, even, I believe, more so than the unvaccinated, because the vaccine should protect them to a certain degree, so they may not even be conscious or aware that they have the virus. But
So how
vaccinated,
do you balance that, Mr. Speaker, with just how I started the show, the numbers, then of course the unfortunate incidents of loss of life? How do you balance that position with that?
well, you see, I think this whole matter was not handled properly, because once, in an effort to promote the vaccines, messages were sent to the public. You should be able to have parties. You should be able to congregate. You should be able to rush in Junkanoo. you should be able to do all these things because you are vaccinated. Then suddenly it became apparent that even the vaccinated can contract the virus, which tells me that what they are offering you is not a vaccine. Because I've never heard about someone contracting smallpox or polio and so on after being vaccinated for those illness. So what you are offering is an experimental emergency treatment for this pandemic that is not even yet approved. But you are making it almost mandatory for people to take this vaccine. And you are putting policies in place that punish people who are not prepared to take the vaccine. And I believe that should be resisted. And you're beginning to see the resistance all over the world. All over the world, the people are now resisting this mandatory policy that they should be vaccinated or they should suffer the consequences.
Mr. Speaker, I give you an opportunity, sir, for a wrap-up comment. I know that you are in the middle of preparing for Parliament this week, starting tomorrow. So I know that your hands are kind of full with making sure everything is in place for tomorrow's sitting. But an opportunity, sir, for a wrap-up comment.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say to the people of Nassau Village constituency that I'm grateful for the opportunity to represent them. And I believe that there's widespread acceptance that they have made a good decision in electing me to Parliament. And while some of the initiatives that I take may appear to be more on a national level, it's always with the people of Nassau Village in mind. I believe that whatever I do will be beneficial to the people of Nassau Village who elected me. And I can assure you in Nassau Village that I have your best interests at heart. I'm doing my best. I haven't gotten the cooperation from the government that I should have gotten as a member of the Free National Movement before I left. And I will make that plain to you during this campaign that I was not sitting down, not doing anything. But it was just a matter of me not being able to persuade the government to do something because the leadership in the government is extremely vindictive when they cannot have their own way with any person. And that is clear across the board in the way other members of the governing party have been treated as a consequence of them being willing to stand up and to be a voice of their own and to pursue their own purpose.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. Halson Moultrie, Speaker of Parliament here in the Bahamas, quite outspoken, very, very visible, undauntedly many times speaking to issues that he feels passionate about, etc. I thank you very much for stopping by the conversation for these few moments. And thank you so much, and we will talk again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Everybody stay exactly where you are. We're going to take a first break. When we come back, hot topics. You don't want to miss that.
Make this your best summer ever with Flirty Girl's Sexy Summer Slim Down. Lose weight and win up to $3,000 in prizes. Sign up today and enjoy weekly challenges, weight loss coaching, and unlimited group workouts, including fat blasting boot camp, yoga, Pilates, cardio boxing, hardcore abs, dance off the pounds, and more. Enroll as a VIP and receive a free 7-day detox, 1 free laser lipo treatment, discounts on body contouring, facials, and Brazilian wax, plus massage and sauna treatments for just $1 per minute all summer long. That's right, all summer long. Prizes include 1 year of free body contouring, free fitness programs, and so much more. All participants will be invited to take part in our sexy summer photo shoot to show off their results. So come on, what are you waiting for? Registration ends June 10th. Call 677-1689 or WhatsApp 467-9630 for more information.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation. Listen, please share the live stream, tag several people in the live stream, share. Really happy to have you all streaming live today. If you were in the first segment, you saw, of course, our guest was the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Mr. Halson Moultrie, who is Member of Parliament for Nassau Village, now Independent Member of Parliament for Nassau Village, stopping by to talk about what's expected in Parliament tomorrow and Wednesday, and also some other issues he addressed. And so, of course, you take that and you make of it and make with it exactly as you choose. Let's just move along very, very quickly. I'm very happy now to kind of let the show turn into the Hot Topics panel discussion that has been sort of in place since 2014. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hot Topic panelists. Obi Roberts, good afternoon to you. It's good to have you. Glenn Wright Pratt, it's wonderful having you as well. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Janique, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bahamas. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Good afternoon to both of you. If somebody, I don't know who that is, if you can just write mute until it's your time to speak, that is awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. The Prime Minister expected, of course, you all heard the Speaker of the House just in the first segment addressing a number of issues, among them, namely the Prime Minister's address, what's expected of that, what's been already sort of foreshadowed that is going to come out of Parliament sitting Tuesday and Wednesday. What do we expect to hear? You all have you been hearing the push for lockdown or perhaps stricter curfews? What have you all been hearing so far? Obi, unmute your mic. I see your mouth moving.
No, I'll let Glenn Wright speak first.
Obi, speak, please.
Not a problem. Well, Shanique, you never know with the Prime Minister.
Because he likes to dictate the show.
No, just saying now, I'd be a gentleman about it. But you never know what he's going to say tonight in terms of that. People are anticipating possibly an extension of the emergency order with what is transpiring with the increase of COVID numbers of recent. And so, but we sit and wait as the Prime Minister makes another national address, I think less than 2 weeks from his previous one. So we wait to see what he has to say.
So what you say that Obi, as a saying, you don't need as many national addresses.
No, I think if you do your homework, Shanique, and you see that there was a spike 2 weeks ago, and if you saw this coming primarily from the statistics that you've been getting, then one national address is necessary. You address the people, you inform the country what is taking place, and move on from that. I think also tonight's national address and what is going to take place in Parliament tomorrow was probably preempted by the Speaker's possible Parliament in the Square. And also the August 13th deadline was coming down, bearing on the government and whether they're going to extend the emergency orders or they're going to allow it to expire and revert back to normalcy. We'll wait to see what he's going to say today and then what is going to be discussed in Parliament tomorrow.
Of course, we will wait this evening at 8 o'clock. Once again, the Prime Minister makes a national address this evening at 8 o'clock. That'll be streamed, everything. And so you want to pay attention to what it is that he is going to announce. Glenn Roy Obi said, listen, he addressed the nation about 2 weeks ago. You could have said some stuff then. I feel as though, and a number of other people feel, he isn't speaking enough. Why wait until it's at this fever pitch to address the nation. At a time like this, when Obi rightly said numbers were spiking since then, you should have been addressing the nation, even if people are dismissive. We know people attention span is short, but more regular than 2 weeks later.
Listen, this prime minister has been consistently updating the nation on the challenges that we have been facing with regards to COVID. And I don't, we could politicize.
So you think it's okay? You think it's okay to have spoken to the nation 2 weeks ago and now again?
I think it's okay to continue to speak to the people as long as we are in this crisis. I mean, and I know we come off of a previous government that didn't have next to any really press conferences or releases from the prime minister of yesteryear. So I understand why Obi feels that way. The comfort of being in that situation is still present. But we need to make sure that we are out front, and the prime minister is doing what he needs to do to make sure he's out front and making sure the message is being heard. And because, the same people who would criticize him, they would criticize him if he was not out there speaking. So I expect it to go one way or the other. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, I don't think he's speaking enough. I hold that position. I think there's more, even if he's not speaking, more that can be happening from his page. I don't want to compare, but I like the more sort of warmth and information that comes from a colleague, one of his colleagues in the region. I guess I won't pinpoint the colleague, but the page is more interactive, more information, a lot more going on where people, the ease of the message, Bahamians are resisting the message. I imagine more people are lining up to be vaccinated, but bring that message out some more so that people have what they need to go and make the decision to go and get vaccinated. I mean, you can see there's a strong message as to why you should not. So bring a strong message as to why you should. Just different aspects of it is what I mean. And so we're not going to. Yes,
but I also want to highlight this fact as well. In some of those same regions with some of those people who have all the conversations and the speaking in a nice way and all of that other stuff, there are people out on the streets protesting now.
Yeah, that's okay. You could protest, and Bahamians, man, listen to me. What the biggest joke is, the biggest comedy hour? Instead of these people listen to what this man will say this evening at 8, they will be on there trying to see who gets the most likes and laughs because they can try to be funny. And so that will happen. I'm just saying though, what your responsibility is, you put it out there. You speak more frequent, I feel, in various forms. To the people. So now, of course, we expect more than likely that the emergency orders will be extended. A number of people were calling and wondering about a lockdown. We, of course, don't see that happening. Doctors are very, very concerned, guys, and this is where this is where sort of the vaccine conversation topic comes up here. Doctors are extremely concerned. They are stretched thin. I watched a video yesterday that what is happening at Princess Margaret Hospital, I imagine at Rand Memorial, is happening at hospitals around the United States. People just sort of wherever they can be. A lot's going on. The numbers that we saw that I referred to at the top of the show. What do you all make of what's happening now and how it's maybe being handled? How it should be handled? Is the health officials and the government doing the best in handling what they can as they're handling it and as it comes? Guys, don't wait for each other to speak. Go ahead, Glenn, Roy, or Obi.
Well, Shanique, we've noticed early this year that you had a couple of private companies that offered this government some COVID vaccine, in which they subsequently had declined. And we just witnessed that the government ran out of vaccine and just recently got some vaccine, I think as recently as early or late last week.
Last week.
Okay. And that could affect the amount of persons who wanted to get vaccinated, and probably some of them may have gotten sick. I'm not saying that they did. I said possibly. All right. But Shanique, in my opinion, I think more education is needed to dispel any fears or concerns that are taking place right now. And I'm talking about educating the general public on what is transpiring right now in our country right now. People are fearful of taking the vaccine based on they do not trust who are the messengers. and they're seeing and getting a lot of information that they're not sure whether they should take it or not. So
and then OB, it's not that the information may be right or wrong, but like you say, this campaign should be all encompassing, and
Yes.
so that people are armed with necessary information that they need to be able to go and make the decision.
Yes. And that is most important, because once you arm the people with the information, then they can make the necessary and best decisions for themselves and their families and friends, and they'll convey it to their friends and family on what they think or what they should do based on the information. But people are not sure what they should do. They've seen, I listened to Glenn Roy in terms of how this government has handled this COVID matter. It has been disjointed. We've seen over the past year plus in terms of the misinformation on how things were handled. Some people think that some of the information wasn't, that the government has been forthright on all of the things that have transpired regarding this COVID pandemic. And people just want truth, because people are fearful right now. People are generally fearful. They're not just being resistant and they're being defiant. They are naturally fearful of what is going on, and they're not sure what they should do. And the best thing that they would do if they're not sure is not to take the vaccine. So that is why you're seeing this here. And perhaps it's the same thing that is taking place throughout the Caribbean and different places around the world right now, where you're seeing a high level of resistance. But I'm only speaking to persons in the Bahamas who I've communicated with, how they feel. And it's a natural fear, and they're not sure on what they should do. And so if they're not sure, they're not going to take the vaccine. I've told them, listen to me, it's a matter of your choice. But I've told them, you got to practice the safety protocols and be accountable to yourself and your friends and your family and anyone you come in contact with. You have to be responsible. Wear your mask, stand 6 feet, keep your hands sanitized at all times. In that regard, you got to be responsible and accountable for yourself and friends and family. This is a very, very serious virus. Take it seriously and make the best decision on behalf of yourself and your family.
Glenroy, I agree with OB 100%. I also want to bring to yours and OB's attention, though, doctor in Grand Bahama, Dr. Bartlett and his family. I don't know him, but apparently, of course, he gave an interview to a media house and talked about, he's a traditional doctor as well as he incorporates natural medicine as well. And he probably did everything OB said. And now he's saying, wait a minute, you all, because unfortunately he and his family, I understand, contracted the COVID. And now he's saying, as soon as he's well, he is going to lead his family in becoming vaccinated.
Shanique, this is something that we need to take seriously. I know that what Obi said, as if he said the messengers that they don't trust. I think sometimes people they try to tailor-make this experience to just the Bahamas. There's no shortage of information. It's just the attention span of people is not really there. Listen, you are in the midst of pandemic and you know that you are potentially susceptible to catching this thing. You should engage yourself in knowing as much as you possibly can to protect yourself and your family members. We can't continue to look at people and say, spoon feed them the information. People are dying around us. That's enough information for me to realize that, hey, I need to take this thing seriously. Let me give you something that you didn't know last week when I was on your show. My daughter had COVID. My whole entire house had effects of COVID, okay? My household, all right? I was battling some issues with that. That's why when you said that I sounded mellow, I was in the midst of dealing with that reality. But understand this.
How is your family doing now?
They're doing much better, much better. But let me say this. If I hadn't taken that vaccine, only God knows what condition my wife and myself would have been in. And so people need to stop talking crap. And forgive me for saying it that way. When I realized what was transpiring as relates to COVID, I started educating myself personally on COVID way ahead of time. I wasn't waiting on nobody to spoon feed me with the information because I realized I have children. I have a responsibility and I have to protect my family. And so I took that responsibility to learn as much as I possibly could have learned. And what I did, when I found out that my oldest daughter had contracted it, I refreshed myself on the information. And I learned, okay, for example, laying on your back can cause you to even develop even a sicker situation. I made sure everybody did not lay on their back. I started to develop a cough. I didn't lay on my back. I made sure that I stayed focused. I did certain things to protect ourselves and to get us out of the situation. And again, like I said, even though I had side effects, The reality of it is, I believe personally that taking that vaccine was a protection for me and my family. All right. And I've seen other family members who have not fared so well in terms of how damaging this effect can be. And so what I urge Bahamians to do is stop waiting on people to spoon feed you with information. There's people who are on both sides of the divide, but you have a responsibility to go and seek the information for yourself to protect yourself. Because at the end of the day, when you laying up in the hospital, ain't nobody around you, you with yourself. And so gotta wise up. And sometimes some of the same people who are urging you not to take it have the best medical treatment that is afforded to anybody. So be wise. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Glenroy, I'm happy that your family is doing well and everybody is improving. That's awesome to hear. And we, Danielle and I did say last week, well, what's up with Glenroy? We didn't even know. Hopefully we could have bring a smile to your face at the time when we made light of it with you. But let me get to a few comments, please. Obi, it sounds like you want to say something. Mute yourself for a minute, and let me just get to some comments, and then I will let you speak, and then we'll take a break and come back with another topic. Elizabeth Smith says, many people riding the bus, a lot of bus drivers are breaking the protocol. Let the police stop and book the bus drivers who are breaking the protocol. That needs to be policed. You're so right, Elizabeth. Portia Newton says, people need to stop being ignorant. If you don't want to take the shot, then don't try to discourage others, because everyone has an audience. Here is Cheryl Ferguson. By not taking the vaccine means people are not taking the virus seriously. Here is Kizzy Newton. Listen, I said what I said. If you feel like he is that on you, in my observation over the years, he was not a good leader in my view. Now, I came in on something else. I don't even know where this is, where that comment is coming from. Here's Kizzy again. Kizzy says that she had COVID last year and her system was not as bad as others. But she says it's a lonely virus, meaning she had to perhaps quarantine herself until she got well. I know Kizzy and her family. Kizzy, I don't know if you mind me putting this out there. Anyways, let me just leave it. Kitty Candy says, so you are a super spreader then, Glenroy. You all believe minutes until it's too late. Let the people inject you all with the virus. Here is Jackie Roca. Yeah, people try to do these scary videos, and I agree, educate yourself. And Glenroy, I applaud you for that. You've been a proponent of self-education and getting involved since you started this show, I think around 2015-16. And I am a proponent of that. I just feel as though, fine, listen, go and read, watch everything you want to do, read, watch all of it. But also the country has a role in terms of just putting some stuff out there. See, because you give no people no excuse. We didn't know. That's your people. You know how they like to say that. Obi, jump in really quickly, please. I have to take a break.
Yeah, Shanique, what I wanted to respond, I'm happy that Glenroy, your family is doing a lot better. I encourage anyone who contracted COVID, and I'm happy that whom recovered for it, that they're doing well. I just wanted to add something to Glenroy's comment. Primarily, it's two things. You have persons out that way who are being reckless and not taking COVID seriously. Mm-hmm. And then you have persons who are taking COVID seriously, but are afraid to take the vaccine based on the information that they've been receiving, or it could be for religious reasons. And persons just want to have more and more information before they make a decision whether they take the vaccine. And that's the thing that I wanted us to be clear about. Not that persons who choose not to take the vaccine are being reckless and trying to discourage persons. They just normally are just very fearful, because I know of many persons who have taken the vaccine and persons who have not, but both are taking very strong and safety protocols.
Exactly, Obi. Exactly. They're not the smart people and responsible people who have taken it are still conducting themselves like everybody else.
Yes. And that is the thing there right now, that that you have persons out that way who are following the protocols, who are maintaining proper distancing and everything else, but they have not made up their mind. And some of that's going to a waiting period to see how persons have been responding, reacting to the vaccine before they make a decision. Quite a few persons are going to wait the time out and then take the vaccine a little bit later on. Some may take it a little bit later on this year. And I know of some persons, because of the vaccine that ran out over the past few weeks, are just waiting for a new batch to come in and hopefully take the vaccine then as well, Shanique. So I just
while people are waiting, it's mutating. So that's something that people need to think about.
But with Glenroy, the issue is, while we ran out of vaccine, there's nothing we can do until the new batch comes in. Unless,
I know, but I'm speaking specifically to those people who are still waiting and who are vacillating about their decision. While you are in that process, it's mutating, which means that the current situation may not be effective.
The current strain.
The current vaccination could be not effective. With the new mutation. So you got to wise
guys, listen, please, let us all of us, vaccinated and not, be responsible, smart, eat well, and I'm not trying to tell you when you drink the bush medicine you don't need to do this. I'm not saying that. I'm saying make it all holistic. I've watched many doctors talk about that they do the natural stuff and they have taken the vaccine. There are some doctors who as well, like the regular person, are standing on the sideline and saying that they are waiting. As well. And so that's where it is. But guys, we have to take a quick break because we have to come back with another topic. Nicole Saunders says there's so many misinformation out there that persons are petrified. And now the Prime Minister is saying that bush medicine does not work. Also, Karen Barr says injecting anything into your body should be a choice. And those who reject the vaccine shouldn't be shamed or called irresponsible for not doing so. Black Velvet Taylor says, I agree, Glenroy. Let them all make their decisions. Only they know their personal stability, what they have to rely on. Gano Davis Hepburn says, sorry, Glenroy Pratt, about your family, and happy everybody is now okay and healing. Yes, so let's just, Carlene Edwards Hannah, police the bus, she's saying. They put the police on the airlines. You're right. We ain't got no police. You think we got as many police to go and put on each bus? But I understand what you mean. Very, very true. Shirley Demerit says, Mr. Pratt is talking sense. Think for yourself and stop blaming people. True. Ron Davis says, take the job. Don't do it for him. Do it for yourselves. Margaret Elizabeth says, I'm happy you and your family are feeling much better. Glenroy, blessings. Susan Thompson, this Glenroy man is obviously a promoter for the vaccine. Glad you decided to take it, but why worry about the unvaccinated? Glenroy, Glenroy, I don't know if you want to answer this or not. But Karen Barr wants to know, was your daughter vaccinated?
No, she didn't take it. She is one of those young people who always had this mindset, God can protect me. It ain't that serious. It's a pandemic, and she running on with all this foolishness. When I knew that I have young people in my household who think that way, I took responsibility and say, you know what? Just in case, by chance, from what I've been watching, there have been many young people who brought it home in their household.
Yeah, and this, but Glenroy, one second. I just saw an NBC headline warning that is what's happening all over again.
Yeah,
and that unvaccinated parents are taking it home as well.
Shanique, just one comment. Glenroy, is it so that even after you just recently contracted COVID and you recover, after you spend the 14-day quarantine, there's 2 or 3 months before you take the vaccine? I don't know if anyone could just take the vaccine immediately after recovery.
No, you're right, Obi.
Okay.
No,
so she has to wait now before she even takes it. Right. It took 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But see,
about 90 days.
But if that time lapses and she catches it again, we go through another cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is why it's so important, in my view, to take the vaccine as a strong look. You don't have to do it. But I'm telling you from what I see and what I felt, I am glad I did.
Wow, guys, we're gonna come back with another hot topic right after this. Don't go anywhere.
To shed some extra inches of unwanted belly fat. Did you know that there are alternatives to surgery to get rid of unwanted fat? Let Therapy Natural Health Spa help you reduce fat without surgery. Therapy Natural Health Spa employs a series of methods in a customized plan to suit your fat loss goals. Target those stubborn and challenging areas on the body with our cavitation body shaper that uses heating lasers to break up and melt fat during each session. Did you know that as you drink water and exercise, that your lymphatic system and liver work together to help eliminate fat? Let Therapy Natural Health Spa help you get the results you've been waiting for. Call us for a free consultation. Let's plan for you. Check us out on Instagram or Facebook. Our numbers are 393-1126 or 806-1132.
Maybe it's for the thrill, or the scenery, or maybe you do it for the speed, or maybe it's for the baby. It might just be for the next stop, or even for the beautiful moments. Whatever your reason for driving, we'll be there to keep you going. Atura Auto, servicing your vehicle at a price that keeps your pockets happy. Call us today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation. I want to invite Obi Roberts and Glenroy Pratt back on. Obi, keep your mic muted only until you're speaking. Thank you guys for alerting me about the feedback. I think that's coming from Obi. And so please keep thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much, Sophia. Thank you. Hello to you, Paulette Stewart. Hello. Let me see if I can get to one or two comments before we jump into this next topic, because Lord, this topic looks sticky. I don't know where the US government, in any event, wait. Blair Percenti says, of course, a number of people educate yourself, and it's a personal decision. Again, the Prime Minister addresses the nation at 8:00 this evening. You wanna stay tuned to hear what he has to say. Many people feel as though it's just an extension of the emergency orders. Will there be stricter curfews? Maybe. Will the curfews be brought in closer, because it's now 10 to 5 a.m. Will that perhaps be changed somewhat? And so let's quickly go into where we have to go, because we have to get through this topic before we wrap up today. Listen, you all, I didn't read the full thing, but I heard a news report that the U.S. government has recently released a report about the Bahamas government and corruption, basically saying that, listen, this administration is corrupt, and laid out a number of instances why it feels so. First of all, gentlemen, I want to ask, the U.S. government qualified?
Well, that report didn't clearly state that the government is corrupt. I know the PLP would like to spin it to make it seem as if that's what it stated.
So, Glenroy, what do you make of then when the reports pointed to a number of cabinet ministers having to resign or fired from their posts, etc.? What I heard in the report, they built a case to say, listen, here is why we have questions about what this administration is doing, has done or not done.
Yeah, based on the resignations, they are saying there's a perception that the corruption exists. The reality is this: any of those ministers, with the exception of one, as I know, have resigned not for having anything doing while they were serving in government. That's first, okay? The former deputy prime minister is being alleged to have been in some engagement prior to him coming into office, all right? Saying that became a legal matter of which he has not been condemned, as which he's not been completely put in the courts or anything.
But he's you to Peter Turnquest, he's the only one. He's the only one I can remember that has a matter in his former professional life.
And then you had the minister with the cotton swabs. To me, that's an issue that is a non-issue for me. Okay, that's a non-issue for me. All right. And then when you look at now, Lanisha Roll is still a question. What happened there? All right, but understand this.
Well, don't you think, Glenroy? And we have to make this a quick little segment. But don't you think that Lanisha Roll issue is enough question? I mean, we'll come out and address it then. Because that is just like this thing just hanging there. You know, the elephant right there in the corner? That is what that, like, what happened exactly? What is it? What was the issue?
Listen, rightfully so, it needs to be dealt with, right? But I'll say this. When it comes to the information that is out there as relates to the government has shown through the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Procurement Bill, the Freedom of Information appointment of Justice Keith Thompson, that they are moving in the right direction as relates to accountability. The PLP would try to make you to believe that the government is corrupt. When you look at that particular segment in news reporting, you would note that all the individuals being reflected in those videos are majority of PLPs. When you look at NIGAD and all the other stuff that is actually being taunted. And so my point is that we have to realize that obviously the government ran on transparency, they ran on eliminating corruption, and they have a responsibility to do that. And the things that they've done thus far is the step in the right direction. But I've yet to hear the PLP put a platform together to say exactly what their plan is as relates to ensuring that the Fiscal Responsibility Act is strengthened, the Procurement Bill is strengthened, the debt management bill is strengthened. I haven't heard anything about what they would do as relates to governing when they come into power. Nothing.
So you were saying the PLP rejoicing over a report by the U.S. government, but they have no sort of counter to say, well, here's what we plan on doing. Here's how we plan on it. Obi, you heard Glenn, right? Glenn Roy said, listen, the PLP pushing this report all over the world and bringing it back to the Bahamas. But you all, what do you all, can you all speak to anything that the report said?
Shanique, I'm laughing at Glenn Roy's comments because he has PLP to the brain. The U.S. report is on the Free National Movement government. It has nothing to do with the PLP. We are the opposition now. And it's interesting, and I want to read something and to remind Glenn Roy and the country, Shanique, on June 17, 2017, while addressing the open session of the National Conclave of Chamber of Commerce in the Bahamas at Bahama Resort, Prime Minister Hubert Minnis said corruption has cost the Bahamas hundreds of millions of dollars. More over the decades. Under the previous administration, there were constant complaints about having to see certain people in order to get proposals reviewed or approved. My administration is committed to transparency, openness, and accountability. Shanique, obviously, besides us, the U.S. Department also see it quite differently from what Hubert Minnis said. Prime Minister Hubert Minnis said some 4 years ago. We've seen the matter with Oban, which we know has been a huge debacle, and they've refused to address it to the Bahamian public. The town center mall matter that led to another former minister resigning because of how that whole matter was given to him in terms of a conflict of interest. We know what the matter with Lanisha Rule. Several different things. Contracts had taken place right now. It's a whole laundry list of items right now that this government right now, what they came to power on, have completely contradicted themselves and have misled the Bahamian people primarily, Shanique. And this is why that report was in detail. You talk about the procurement bill. You enforced that March of this year, but that's not fully enacted yet, Shanique. That was only tabled and passed in the House Assembly. That's not been enforced, and Glenn Roy knows that. All of this is just lip service, and that was lip service due to the pressure that was coming from the U.S. that the whole bill of how they were handling contracts and how and the bidding process and contracts was not a transparent one, and it was not an open one. So that's why they put that together, and hopefully they think that they can silence it, but they have not enforced that. Me and the PLP are quite aware of that, Shanique. All this is just lip service. But it's it's a damning report. It's a damning report and a reflection on the government on what they came and also, Shanique, I forgot to mention, you also had that the Free National Movement campaigned on corruption, and some of them said they sending people to jail, but yet they have failed to prove that. And then they had some of their cabinet ministers, two of their cabinet ministers were judicially condemned in their involvement in one of the
judicial
cases.
condemnation is not.
So Glenroy, Obi is saying, Obi, mute your mic, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Glenroy, Obi is saying that, listen, wait a minute, you tried a few cabinet ministers, meaning this administration, they lost those cases. He laid out and said the report lays out the fact that contracts that are being awarded without going to bid or being bid properly for, a number of other things going on, a number just of question marks, loopholes, just things that left sloppily open, like the Oban deal and a number of things. And this is what this report is based on.
Yeah, but what Obi wouldn't tell you is when you look at the Oban deal, for example, right? The Oban deal was being toured around with Michael Darville and Grand Bahama. I think as Obi Penling and some other persons on video that they were initially touring around because Oban deal came in through Obi Penling.
Oh, so
yes. The Oban deal
now, you know, Obi is a lawyer. Listen to me. You sure with that? Obi Penling is a lawyer.
They toured around. Oban, the players of Oban came into play around that same time. If you look on the video, you will see that, okay? The other thing about the PLP is, again, he just proved my point. While they are good at highlighting, right? They have never, and they're staying clear away about saying what is their responsibility as relates to fiscal responsibility. This is the only government that has enacted something that will govern government's behavior as relates to spending our monies. He has not said anything about the procurement bill. This is the only government that has implemented something that will ensure that there is a fair bidding process as relates to getting contracts. They haven't done any of these things. Don't mind the PLP talking. They are only listen, I look at a man and I look at what they're bringing to the table. The PLP, talking about contracts in terms of begging for contracts, we haven't forgotten those things. We haven't forgotten people who said that they didn't want to tell us about certain things because they were afraid that they were going to lose their job. The Bahamian people haven't forgotten certain things, okay? We haven't forgotten that we were supposed to have gotten information about the Junkanoo Carnival when $30-something million was spent on that and we didn't get any information. These are things that concerns me. It's easy to piss away money. Remember that statement? See, Bahamians tend to forget. And I know that sometimes in the midst of our challenging times that we seem to be facing, that we put everything on one particular administration. I would contend to say that successive administrations are responsible for the crisis that we find ourselves in today, okay? But at least right now, I'm seeing steps towards correcting those problems. Is it perfect? Of course it isn't perfect. Has there been hindrances ensuring that the government does some things? Of course there have been hindrances. The same report Obi is citing is the U.S. report talks about the fact that the government faced many challenges coming into office. The same report talked about the debt the country found itself in, the downgrades by Standard & Poor's. The same report talks about all these challenges that the FNM found itself in. See, the PLP would only like to
this ball is like volleyball. Then it goes here and then it goes there. It comes back there. It goes there. That's what it is.
I love the response to Glenroy.
Let Obi respond. Give Obi 60 seconds because if you and Glenroy think you're going to go back and forth with this, you're making a mistake. Go ahead, Obi.
When you cannot campaign on your own accomplishments, you will try to deflect from the matter at hand and try to condemn the previous administration. The PLP government under Perry Christie had their referendum and was fired in 2017. When is Glenroy and the Free National Movement going to campaign on their accomplishments? Now, what happened is their deficiencies, their inconsistencies, their scandals, their corruptions have been highlighted, not by what we've been saying by the Bahamian public, but by also the United States government. But this is something that we've been seeing since they came to office, the inconsistencies, or Dr. Minnis going around the world and presently saying we are corrupt as a country. You have a couple of your cabinet ministers being traditionally condemned. You have some of your cabinet ministers having to resign because of conflict of interest. And so many different matters that have been taking place, unanswered questions. That town center mall still stinks to high heaven in the hearts and minds of the Bahamian people. When you had then former cabinet minister Brent Simonet on ZNS indicating that he said that the Prime Minister contacted him on Town Center Mall, knowing that it was a conflict of interest, and that they know that they was going to work around that. These are things that the Bahamian people have seen, heard.
We
saw the video.
Obi, that 60 seconds is gone.
All right, we saw the video, and many others around the world have seen the video. And this has just happened to be one of many issues that locally and internationally people have been saying about this government, that they're saying that they're corrupt and scandalous. And that's why you see that report was so damaging to this Free National Movement government.
Glenroy, 30 seconds. You know what 30 seconds look like? You have any idea what
Yeah, I want to be the people to hear that.
Obi, mute your mic, please.
Mr. Davis stated on national television that he saw nothing wrong. He said he and his government did what they thought was right. And based on that, he stands with them and stands by the decisions that they made. If all the things that the voting public knew that they did, and he stands by them without any true repentance, of which Chester Cooper urged them and the party to do, along with Morning Pittling to urge them and the party to repent. If they ignore the voices within themselves, that should give you pause. There is nothing on the table as relates to what will they do as relates to fiscal responsibility. Ask them what will they do. Don't mind all the other stuff. What are they going to do?
I thank you very much, Glenroy Pratt. I thank you very much, Obi Roberts, for making an incredible, as usual, very, very, very heated discussion on the Hot Topic segment of today's show. Of course, our first guest in the first segment was the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Halson Moultrie. Thank you very much, Mr. Moultrie. Of course, once again, you guys, 8 o'clock this evening, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis will address the nation. Many have already predicted, in fact, he's foreshadowed in a statement the possible extension of the emergency orders, and of course, laying out a new legislative agenda in response to COVID, I guess, and among other things, in Parliament Tuesday and Wednesday. We will be paying attention, and of course, we will see exactly what it is that comes out of this evening's address, and of course, Parliament's meetings. Thank you all so much for streaming live today. You guys are such an incredible audience. Thank you very much. Kizzy, I need you all to be quiet. I don't need more time. You need Glenroy and Obi to doggone continue talking like they can't. You want me to fight with this? Listen, I thank the gentlemen very much. They know that they are right here for me. I thank you guys so much. And thank you also, Cara Ellis. Thank you, social media audience. Please do share the live stream if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We will see you on the next live. And of course, we will be sharing highlights from the Prime Minister's address this evening at 8 p.m. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Conversation. You need a little conversation. We can go far with the conversation. Here with Shanique on the conversation.